hear me? Yes, you can now. Hello, thank you very much for joining us for our session today, CEO Speaks, or CEO Talks. I'm very honoured to have you're honoured to have a very illustrious panel sitting on this very large stage and very large theatre today. So what I'd like to do is to introduce our guests. I'd like to talk about the debate or discussion, the topic that we've got on the agenda today. Then I'd like to raise some questions with the panel. This is a conversation, this is people talking. It's not about them selling anything to you, it's about a debate. And then finally, we're going to come to you, the audience, and we're going to ask if you've got any questions, so please be thinking about those. To start though, our chair of our education committee always likes every one of these sessions to leave you, the audience, with some kind of take-home, something that you've learned, something added value. So please don't be worried or surprised if at the end of the audience conversation I hop down with a microphone and just at random pick you to see what you have learnt, no running away before the end, what you have learnt from today's debate and session. Is that okay? There's no such thing as a free event here at IAAPA. You will learn. Okay, can I introduce the speakers to you, or our conversationalists today? First of all, can I introduce Pia to you? Pia is the Chief Executive of Linnanmaki in Helsinki, in Finland. Linnanmaki started in 1950, correct, and is a visitor amusement park that was set up very uniquely to help to fund a foundation for children. So would you like to give us, Pia, just another couple of minutes on Linnanmaki?
Yes, thank you. Linnanmaki really is operating an amusement park in order to gather funds for children's welfare. So we have 6 major children's welfare organizations that are the recipients. And over the years, we've given out more than 120 million euros to the Children's Welfare Foundation. So it's very important for all of us. So we say fun just by having fun, we're doing good. So that's kind of our aim for Linnanmaki.
Thank you. And I'm going down in age here, so I think it was Whiting Foods was created in 1953. Am I correct? So can I introduce the president, chairman, owner? What would you prefer to be described as?
For a company president of Whiting Foods and incoming chairperson for our organization for IAAPA. And I know we're all excited that IAAPA EMEA was able to push forward and get today's whole expo going and open. Glad everybody is here.
And I was going to do the big sell on the new chairman in a moment, but
you just come back at that. So I'm not sure what it says in your brochure, but I am a fill-in for somebody who couldn't make it. They were looking for a pretty face and ended up with me instead. So, but my company, Whiting Foods, operates food and beverage at the Santa Cruz Beach Boardwalk in California, as well as in a sports arena and out in fairs and festivals. But my home base is the Santa Cruz Beach Boardwalk, where our company has operated for 70 years almost. And in that time, I've just invested heavily in our industry as it relates to food and beverage specifically. As an operator. The boardwalk, by the way, is an amazing property, 114 years old, sitting on the beach, on the Monterey Bay, the Pacific Ocean, and serving the greater San Francisco Bay Area primarily as our core marketplace. So pleased to be here today and look forward to participating in the questions that Julia throws at us. So
thank you.
Juliana.
I'm not going to throw questions, don't worry. There's no sport or physical activity required. It'll pass them to you. And our third speaker, I'm very, very pleased to welcome John Wood, who is the chairman and CEO. Everybody has different titles nowadays, don't they, of Sally Dark Rides, who have a history a moving history, or history of moving storytelling is how I kind of sum up your company. Would you like to tell us a little bit more for those of us in this room who don't know Sally Dark Rides?
Yeah, I am John Wood, Chairman and CEO of Sally Dark Rides. This is a company that we started in a garage in Jacksonville, Florida, 44 years ago, building, moving, and talking animated characters. Over the years, that morphed into creating attractions, not only animated musical shows, but eventually dark rides, which we really love to tell stories. True or false, we love to tell a good story. And the best way to tell a story is through a traditional dark ride, or even a non-traditional dark ride. It's an experience that all the family can enjoy together, and we get great pleasure out of creating our new babies and seeing them operate, seeing happy families get off the side and go back and ride it again. So it's been a great career. It's a family business. My daughter and my son-in-law are all involved. I'm sure Ken's family is very involved, and I'm sure Pia's family is very involved. And if we aren't innovative, they're going to make us be innovative. Our first advertisement that we put in the amusement business was, "Don't be intimidated by innovation." I should have been, but in reality, innovation is what makes the world go round and makes it a little different.
I'm glad you said that, because that's what we're going to talk about for the next 25 minutes. If I can just introduce myself, actually I started my career in this industry on a dark ride, which was called the Jorvik Viking Centre in York, and it was the first moving time car ride that the UK had seen, and it's still in existence, it's still successful, and my group has now gone on to develop and own and operate visitor attractions across the UK. So I'm a product of a dark ride. We were the first to have smells. My career began smelling of Viking stew and Viking poo. So that's my history. Right, let's talk about our topic and our subject, if I may. So I'm quoting Jeff Bezos, who seems to have retired from Amazon, but hey, let's go with his approach that he was leading on when he was in charge. Jeff Bezos has a day one business mindset, and I'm going to read you a quote which is so relevant to our industry that I think it's the bedrock of what we want to talk about today. He says, forgive me if I read because I don't want to misquote, "Staying in day one requires you to experiment patiently, accept failures, plant seeds, and protect saplings." I hope this is translating into Spanish. "Double down when you see customer delight." Day one is about being brave enough to fail, even if that means that you are applying the lessons that you've learnt, but you have to be better at surprising and delighting your customers. If you come out to work thinking that it's day two, you are already dead. Discuss. So, we're going to have, as I said, a panel discussion for about 20 minutes, then ask if you've got any questions from the audience, and then we're going to see what all of us have learned from today's debate. So I'm going to sit down, because I feel a bit uncomfortable just standing up all the time, and just throw the question to the panel about, do you agree with Jeff? Do you agree? John?
Well, it'd be hard to argue with a billionaire so successful and has done so many, in some ways, common things better. So yes, if you are on a cutting edge company like Jeff is, being day one is a great way to go and approach every day with a new, fresh approach. But it's rare that that gets implemented, and rare in a company when you have that opportunity. Most companies have tasks that they have to get after. And it's a tactical world as well as it is a world of make-believe in the future. Getting together even after the day of work, is when I find the innovation really start flowing in my company. Dreaming about what we could do, or how we could solve a problem, or developing a new approach to family entertainment is always an important topic to discuss and enjoy. And if you're not sitting around the table and enjoying that, then you're not innovating. There's no question about it. You're stagnant. So you have to agree with Jeff. And I would certainly not argue with that comment at all.
Pia, would you disagree with anything that Jeff said?
Well, I agree with John, and it's important to innovate, but I think it's often overlooked that you also have to take the time to execute the innovations, and I guess that could be day 2 or day 3. So if you don't take the time and make sure that you have the time and the skills to actually execute innovations, at the end, people are not going to be motivated to innovate because they never see the fruition of the innovations. So I think there needs to be a balance, because you also need to have the day of execution and putting things forward, as well as then innovating new things. So there needs to be a balance, I think.
Yes, and it is difficult to disagree with some of those words, but it's equally so difficult to implement them, because how many of us, when we're working our tasks, are afraid of that failure, afraid to actually give somebody a challenge and then for them to come back and say, well, I didn't do it. And actually his words are saying, empower that failure, allow those things to not work for you, and then learn the lessons. Ken, would you agree? Who dare disagree with the words of Jeff Bezos?
I won't be the one person that disagrees with Jeff Bezos' success or his principles on innovation. And from my standpoint, innovation, one, is, I do agree, and it's necessary, but it comes in so many different ways. It isn't creating the next new iPhone, or whatever the product is, but it might be a new service. It might be how you innovate on how you execute the service that you're delivering, or your policies or procedures that make you more efficient. And it's really about developing that culture to have that day one approach to innovation. And I know that we have always challenged our team to not look for the 100% idea, but to look for 101% ideas. You'll always get the big idea, right? You're going to walk around the show floor today, and the super big idea is going to hit you over the head, and so shame on you if you don't take advantage of it. But they constantly have everybody looking for those 1% ideas. They add up in a hurry, particularly if your approach every day is a day one at work. So they will make significant impacts.
So Jeff has got all 4 of us agreeing with him. So, and as you say, who would dare disagree with a man whose business has been so successful? But just coming back to those words, and there's so much in that paragraph about accepting failures, protecting little ideas and nurturing them, always surprising and delighting customers. But you make a really good point. All 3 of you made a good point about saying you're being innovative is one thing. How do you deliver innovation? Do any of you have an innovation strategy? Ken, do you have an innovation strategy?
What was the last word? What kind?
Strategy.
Strategy. I'm sorry. Innovation
I'll translate
strategy.
that. Strategy.
Well, honestly, as I mentioned a moment ago, we're always looking for just small steps to take, because I fully believe that a whole bunch of small steps will get you to a very positive finish line. And so that is our strategy. And then from a standpoint of looking for those big new ideas, candidly, I look at our industry very regularly and often in all sorts of different ways. And in most things, there's not a lot of new ideas out there, but there are things that we can all look at and take and learn from and make them your own, make them fit into your operation, into your park, into your supply chain. And that's our strategy for sure, is to look at the industry for the big things, making them our own, and then
Ken,
small things.
Ken, I'm going to press you.
Uh-oh.
Because I think it's really interesting.
Yeah.
Those sound like aspirations, but do you have, I'm going to say the word as best I can in English, do you have a proper strategy for innovation? Because each of you have said it's something that we all talk about, but how do you make it happen? How do you give it oxygen and space to develop within your company?
Yeah, so if you're throwing that back at me, what I'll simply just say is that we don't have a formalized innovation strategy, piece of our business, except for the culture that we create to always be looking for new things and looking for better ways. So that would be our strategy for sure.
Yeah. John?
Well, Jeff said you have to be prepared to fail, and you have to be prepared for fail, but in my opinion, fear of failure is the greatest motivator for success. And we do have a creative design department, of course, and we're a group of artists more than anything else. So not only are we looking for new ways to create a certain device, but a new way to create a whole new attraction or a whole new way to approach an attraction. But even Leonardo da Vinci said experience is the great way towards innovation and invention. And I believe it comes naturally to those that are observing, those that pay attention to the things around or understand the issues that they have to face. They can observe a lot of people who have satisfactorily overcome that burden and have created new ways to it. Our most innovative property was probably the interactive dark ride, where we took two standard attractions, the shooting gallery and the ride-through experience, but I'd heard from people like Pia that, a dark ride is not that repeatable. It's more like a movie. And we had to make a ride that was repeatable if we were going to be successful with it. So if I was going to be in the dark ride business, I had to solve that problem and not fail at it. The same thing with the capacity and the marketability of an attraction. All of it has to be taken care and taken into consideration. So
I love the idea that Jeff Bezos was probably reading Leonardo da Vinci's Codex or whatever it was to get his inspiration. So you're saying, John, that you have that mindset within the business anyway to test and to push. Pia, at a visitor attraction level, we're constantly faced with everyday challenges of the plumbing's not working, the marketing needs something, a customer has fainted. How do you provide the time and the space for your team to be innovative? How do you make sure it's there?
I think it's all about creating a culture where everybody is passionately interested in developing your company. So you want to make people interested, you want to make them passionate, you want them to be creative, and it's all about the culture. So when you create a culture where people feel that it's okay to fail, it's okay to provide or even challenge the CEO with ideas and come up with new ideas, not being afraid to fail, and also knowing that we often have a saying where you say that if you don't like something, come with a better solution. What we're saying, if you don't like something, come with the problem and let's solve it together. So it doesn't have to be that you have the ready solution, but you have to realize that there are problems that need solving. So I think it's all about creating the right mindset for the culture, but it's also then to making the whole staff, also the seasonal staff, to understand the strategy. What are your aims? What are you aiming for? How will you be successful? And then also I think our creative idea is then to portray it in a way with a one-pager. It's a cartoon ride, actually a roller coaster ride that shows the whole strategy of what we're trying to aim. So it makes it simple for people to understand. We're not just building a building, we're actually building something amazing. So you want people to see the end result. So I think it's all about the culture and the mindset to have everybody innovating, not just the creative department innovating.
We spoke about this at a previous CEO speak that Pia guested on, which is about the culture of the people that you work with and the leadership of the people. And I can absolutely see that, but I can also see running through our guests and through our industry such strong passion. And I think if you're going to be innovative, you're going to find new solutions, being passionate about what you're doing is absolutely the key. So what gurus, what inspiration have you had to be innovative in your business? Pia, you talked about a book that has inspired you. Would you like to share some of that with us?
I think it's really important that you read a lot, and there's so many excellent leadership and management books and innovative books. I'm in a book club where there's like 30 CEOs, and we read one book per month, and it makes us read them because then we meet up and discuss the books. And one of the last books that I read was Adam Grant's Think Again, and that's a book about challenging us to relearning and knowing that, and realizing that you don't have all the answers. So you have to actually know the questions to ask so somebody else will provide the answers. So understanding that as a CEO, you are not the smartest person in the room necessarily, so it's to surround yourself with smarter people and have the conversation. And I can warmly recommend this book because it makes you think again. And that's all about being innovative, is to see things differently.
I read a summary of it, but I'm on your suggestion, and I'm going to buy the book, find the time. But if you repeat the name again.
Think Again by Adam Grant.
There's a great quiz, sort of personality test quiz that's at the beginning of that, which helps you to establish whether you're somebody who continues to do things in the same way, or whether you're somebody who's willing to explore and open up your thinking. It's a good quiz, even if you don't get to read the books. John, have you got a guru or a inspiration or an inspiring person that you look to?
Oh, no question. Like Pia, I'm in a CEO peer group where continuous learning, I think, and learning from others is what I really believe in. My case, Walt Disney was my inspiration. I was 12 years old when 1964 World's Fair opened. I was there. I saw Lincoln speak for the first time. I saw tiki birds and dinosaurs and the Carousel of Progress, which inspired me today. Seeing how you could so effectively communicate through this device, not just because it was novel, because it was fun and it was enjoyable, it was entertaining. It's the longest running show in the world, I think, the Carousel of Progress is to this day, and it's because it's remained in time, it's current, reflective of new technologies, reflective of history, reflective of family, and those elements are not new, but it was all about GE at the time, General Electric, and the innovations that they had enjoyed over the years. The refrigerator, the stove, the things that new technology allowed to move forward, told with robots. So yeah, Walt Disney, of course, when we go to Disney World, I pay for any one of my people to go. It's going to school. I want them to bring me back an idea. I want them to bring me back something that they discovered, that got them, that surprised them, that inspired them. But I want them to go because, like Pia, the key to a successful, innovative staff is for them to buy in with their soul. And we see that in parks. We see that in an attraction that we may have put in 20 years ago, and we go back and look at it like we did at Terra Medica just recently. Labyrinth of the Minotaur was installed in 2000. The same two people that were there when we installed it were there. And they pointed to a folding chair that one of my guys left behind, said, that's Steve's chair. And they told us stories about the guys that were running. And you know why? The reason they're still there in that ride is that they love the ride and they love the experience and they've got it in their heart. And we see it all the time when we visit parks. When you compliment their emotional connection to their park with something that aids that, takes it to a stronger emotional connection, then you've accomplished something.
not a bad guru to have, Walt Disney. So,
Well,
you
I was
that's,
asked if-
That's almost like arguing with Jeff Bezos. Okay.
It was an easy pick,
You
I know.
can't argue with Walt. Ken, do you have a sort of
Sure.
inspirational vision, leader, guru?
Sure. Lots of them, actually. And I would agree, first of all, the networking with others that are smarter than you or that have shared experiences that you can learn from is just so important, right? And so transferable no matter what you do, however size your properties are. And for me, that's been just hugely motivational to connect with other people, and again, to say connect with it within our industry, to visit other parks, like going to Walt Disney World and seeing how other people are doing things and grabbing what's right about that, and again, making it your own. From a standpoint of a person, I've got somebody that I don't even know the name in this room, and it's not specifically about innovation, but Dale Carnegie. Dale Carnegie in the 30s was probably the first person to come out with personal development kind of a book, how to win friends and influence people. And everything, anybody else's that's in that industry has kind of all been built off of that book that's pushing 90 years old, I guess, now. And the reason I like about that, and the thing that always moves me and inspires and motivates me, it's all about human relations and people development and leadership and communications. And that is more important today than it has ever been in terms of getting things done, things like innovating, and to getting your teams engaged and in getting your teams motivated. And anyway, that's what I have really looked to in terms of someone who I have read that book 50 times probably, and had our team read it, and we talk about all the elements in there. So that's it for me. One thing I'd add to in terms of a strategy, or even hitting on that, of what drives innovation for my company, simply is one is by setting a goal of what our sales want to be next year and how we're going to grow, and then that stimulates the conversation about how we're going to get there, because we're not going to get there by doing the same old thing year in and year out. And so some things don't work, to be perfectly honest. And it's okay to fail. You have to manage your risk of failure, but some things don't work. But I'll tell you what, some things do, and you'll never know if you don't swing the bat and have that culture in place that's always having you trying new things.
Ken, you've created some unusual food items there at the boardwalk
We
that
have.
not only sold well, but also marketed the boardwalk because of their uniqueness. So I think fried pickle was one of them.
I don't know what we invented there, but we've got a lot of crazy food items. But you're right, John is right, and so I'm speaking from a food and beverage standpoint, but it's all very transferable. But so many things in that category in our park, people are coming for that. It's part of the attraction. It's part of the experience. It drives length of stay.
You're leaping on to the next question, which
All right.
is where I ask you about what innovations you've got in your business. And John's brilliantly leading us into the next question.
Sorry.
I was just going to, just to show that we prepare for these presentations, it's not just a sort of wing it. I was doing my own research into innovation, trying to learn for our business as well. And there are always books on habits, the best habits or the habits of the most innovative people or leadership. But the one that I found, I thought summed it up really well, because all the conversations we've just been having feed and link into these statements. The first is get out of the office. If you're going to be innovative and you're going to lead innovation, get out of the office. And that's, here's the plug for IAAPA expos around the world. That's exactly what we're all doing now. The other one is flip. This is a typical American word. Flip your assumptions. So if you think that they're going to like, what was it, fried onions? What was pickled onions?
Fried pickles, John mentioned.
Fried pickles.
Fried pickles. Okay, so there you are. There's a perfect idea of flipping an assumption. The other one is pursue your passion. God, what a great industry we're in to be passionate about. Thank goodness we're not making widgets or car parts. So we can be passionate about what we do. The other list of habits was travel. So again, you know, you've said go to Disney as part of your learning. I think all of us travel, and in traveling, you demonstrate your curious mind and find things that excite you and inspire you. The other thing is question everything, and I think you've started to hear some of that we question. Well, you've done it this way, let's flip that, think about how you do it in a different way. The final one was surround yourself with inspiration, and that's quite an interesting one to contemplate. You've talked about books, CEO groups, you've talked about leading, having a peer group, you've talked about getting out and seeing other things, but my solution to that is I'm sure that there's an ageist accusation that's going to be thrown at me, but mine is to surround myself with younger people. Because the younger people who work with us don't know that you might have tried something before and it might not have worked. Younger people in our industry, there's no monopoly in my business on bright ideas. Those young people come forward with something, and the older ones in the business are tempted to say, well, we tried that, but it don't. Allow young people around you to come up with inspiring ideas. And a good example of that is, I don't know if you all know Google. It's the Jeff Bezos equivalent. They've got a department which is called Deep Mind. And in Deep Mind, they reward people who fail. They don't reward you if you come up with the next great idea. They reward you if you come with something and say, I've tried this, it didn't work, but here are the lessons that I have learned from it. And that's how new ideas spin out of Deep Mind and into Google. So there's a lesson for all of us. The question I was going to come back to was, can you give us some examples of innovation in your own company, on your own attraction, in your own business? So, Pia, innovative ideas that Linnanmaki have come up with.
I think in an amusement industry, it's easy to say, oh, new rides. We have the Tiger ride that's in the pictures here, and that's innovational. But at the same time, I think innovational is just thinking outside the box and getting the ideas, like you said. One innovational idea that we're doing to make sure that we're listening to the younger people, as you said, is that we cooperate with the Helsinki University, where we have business design students that we've involved, and they get credit for workshops where, for example, we're thinking of building a new funhouse, and we had a workshop where they invented different funhouse rooms for us. Or we did another workshop where we have a carnival of light, and we had these students think of different light fixtures that we could do, or lighting elements. So we're involving the younger people. Of course, we're getting out our brand out in the world, but at the same time then we're learning from them and getting ideas. And of course, for the good ideas, we actually pay them for it as well. So, and I promise that when we build the fun house, the ideas that we bought, we're gonna have a plaque with their names on it saying, I designed this room and such. So that's like one way of thinking of innovation. I think in terms of failing, it's easy to say that yes, you get rewarded for failing, but I think if you have a lot of passion and you're innovative and you wanna be good in your job, it's hard to fail, because it's not because you think your boss is gonna be mad at you. Just as a person, we don't like to fail. So I think it's very important as a leader to make sure that you also, when you fail, you let it out, and you show that you fail, and you laugh at yourself and say, can you believe it? This is what I did, and I failed. I'm sorry, I was wrong. I've gone up in front of my staff and said, okay, I made a wrong decision. I'm sorry, that was a wrong decision. Let's move on. And when I do that, I think it makes it easier for the staff to also then say, okay, sorry, I made a blunder in the smaller things. But I think you need to be an example to make sure that people then are not afraid to fail, and that way they can explore new ideas.
You never read about Jeff Bezos's failures. So maybe we need another book on that. What innovation, you've talked quite a bit already about innovation within Sally Dark Rides, but can you give us a glimpse of the future?
Well, the future is still to come, but, it's a constant change. People want to see something new. The buyers say, what's new? They come right up to you. And when you're building a traditional attraction like ours is, one of the 100-year-old like attraction, and modifying it for today's audience, the first thing we did was, as I mentioned before, turn it into a game that you can share with the others in the family. But then that wasn't quite enough. Well, what if you do better than the other car? Well, then maybe we can have multiple endings depending on how you succeed in the ride. So if you ride Challenge of Tutankhamun, you have 3 different endings depending on how the game is played. And when you start combining other elements with the traditional dark ride, the interactivity, we've had to go through infrared, laser, video mapping. Video mapping because Disney came out with Toy Story Mania. Who would have ever dreamed that a dark ride would all be video and interactive? This is the one time I beat Disney to the punch by coming out in the market with interactive rides, but it didn't take them long, where they learned from us and from their audience and were more innovative. We immediately said, hey, we better get pretty good at video. And so all of our current attractions, the new ones that we've been putting out, are mixed media, combining the traditional elements of animation, special effects, special experiences with immersive video that now stretches the timeline, creates the ability to go screaming through the Count's Castle as you do at PortAventura on Sesame Street ride. So, and yes, every time we do an attraction, like we were fortunate enough to do 7 Justice League attractions for Six Flags in America and in Mexico, but we came back every year and said, okay, what can we do better? What didn't work as well as it should? Where can we really put another exclamation point on the experience? And it was the fact that over 3 years, these 7 attractions, every year there was a new innovative element to the ones that we had done the year before. And the client didn't insist on that. My designers insisted on that. They wanted to do something new this time around. So, yeah, I'm fortunate in that my business is all about creativity and art, and then executing that successfully like a business. And I agree with Pia. You've got to be honest not only with yourself, but with your staff and with your customers. And when I tell a customer I can't do it in the time frame that they need, they'll come back to me the next time, you know, because I've told them the truth. Instead of selling them something that I can't do, it'd be much more egregious to me as a company or our company if we were to be dishonest with any of our customers. Sometimes you have to be innovative to meet their deadlines. Sometimes you have to really jump high when you didn't have the springs in your shoes. But that's the challenge of this industry. There's always a deadline, and there's always a budget, and you've got to hit both of them.
I'm going to focus on what you've just said, because I had a lovely, I thought it was a really good summary of innovation, that it's the implementation of new ideas that add value. But you've just come up with an even better one, which is springs in your shoes. So I think innovation for me is now going to be, have you got springs under your shoes or in your shoes? That's a brilliant one. Ken, innovation in your food.
Yeah.
But it's still delighting the customers. What are you?
Yeah, so for sure, all of us are still living through COVID. And what that means to me when I think about innovation is that we were closed for over a year. And we had this gift of time. We kept our full-time team on board. But folks, we got to come up with some new ideas. We have to make some money somehow, some way. And so we did all sorts of things, and that would have been great under any circumstance, but because we had more time to implement, we acted. And so, things that are out, they're on trend: mobile ordering, contactless transactions. We went cashless, and those things all. We have some room to grow to ensure that that's all well communicated, better communicated with our guests. But honestly, it was a huge win. Speed of service picks up. Our spending went way up, and we learned exactly what it cost us to process a lot of cash too. It was very expensive So being out of it was hugely successful for our business and ultimately for our guests as well. We took some time to figure out what business are we really in, and you think you know that for sure, but we just locked in on the fact that in my case, I was in the foods for fun business and the people business. So how can we expand that in ways that isn't right here in Santa Cruz, California, or right here at our amusement park? And we started delivering food into the city and through DoorDash and those kinds of services. We wholesaled products around town, and that was all okay. We learned a tremendous amount. There was a little bit of that failure that was okay. I mean, it wasn't a big fail, but we learned that, we're not going to pull this off and make any real money. And then we went to one of our vendors. We looked at all of our suppliers and said, how can we leverage something that we already do? And a company that in the United States has got a strong brand, maybe less so throughout EMEA, but it's Icy. Icy is a frozen beverage company. I licensed their name and their flavorings and found someone to pack tubs of cotton candy for me under the Icy brand. Long story short, that was only 6 months ago. We've sold over 400,000 units of these tubs of cotton candy. And that would have never have happened if we weren't focused on innovation and had the time to innovate. We packaged a lot of our training materials together and made them a little bit more generic and made those available in a more of a digital environment that allows us to scale that in a manner that we weren't even living in that world before. So, and there's lots of other little small points that I could drill down on, but we acted and did so many things that we could never have gotten around to before. All of them providing us greater customer service, a better guest experience for our company, increased revenue, and growth opportunities for the future that I think might have us more ready for the next pandemic. I hope not.
Is that frozen cotton candy?
What's that?
Did you say tubs of frozen?
Not frozen. No, I'm sorry. I said frozen. The Icy company, that
Icy,
brand,
right.
They're known for their frozen beverages.
But tubs of cotton
But
candy?
that cotton candy with their flavorings.
I'm on the list of customers. Can you keep sending it to me?
I don't know that we're shipping overseas, but
I'm in for tubs of cotton candy. Before I ask one final question, could I just wave at the technical team and say, could you just bring some microphones onto the floor? Because after I've just asked a quick question of our guests, then we'll see if there are any questions from our audience, and then we'll see what everybody feels that they've learned out of this. Did the technical team here with microphones?
I can
see one there. I can see one there. That's brilliant. Okay, big question, short answer before we ask the audience or they ask you. What do you think innovation looks like for our industry? Not your businesses, but for our industry in the next 10 years. Pia, sorry.
That's okay.
You were thinking? Okay, if you want more time to think.
That's okay. That's okay. I can be innovative.
Innovative.
I think it's important that we remember that being in an amusement park or experiencing the amusement industry, it's a physical experience. So even though you try to come up with all these gadgets making it easier for you, at the same time, it's still a physical experience, so we don't get too far away from that. It's people doing things together. The main motivation to go to an attraction, I think it's doing something together with some people that you love. And then you think of what should we do today? And then an amusement attraction or a park or a water park, that's just one option of doing something together. So make sure that you have a lot of things that people can do together if they're not all into being in a pool, being on a ride. So I think the togetherness and the physical experience.
It's really interesting that you say that. I was on a judging panel for Blue Loop, if any of you have heard of that, for their innovation awards. And a lot of the companies had come forward with innovations that were about personalizing that visit, which sounds great. But for us as operators, actually we know that a day out at a park, at a boardwalk, in a theme park, it's actually about a sharing experience. So it's quite interesting when some of the suppliers are working towards personalizing to a level where it's just you, and actually we know that whatever else comes in innovation, People want to share it together. John, what do you think the industry has to hold?
Well, the kingpins in our industry when it comes to innovation are definitely Universal Creative and the Disney Imagineers. There's no more creative force in our business. Doesn't apply to everyone, but they're constantly developing new ways to entertain their guests, to make them feel special, to keep themselves absolutely pristine and at day one every day. And it's a remarkable feat, and I don't know how they pull it off, but they do. 10 years, 20 years, 30 years later, it's still an incredible first-time experience. Our future, is going to continue to be innovative in ways of having ride deliver you to the experiences, whether it's the launching coaster in a coaster or putting it onto a cruise ship, putting a water park on top of the smokestacks almost. It's incredible if you look them out in the harbor today. Water slides galore on top of ships. So the opportunities, we don't know yet. But we are quick to respond and to study and to try to become different than the others and special in all ways. So I don't know what the future is yet.
So keep watching Disney.
I will.
Keep watching the team. Ken, what about in the industry broadly?
Short answer, I think pretty much echoes what was already said. I think we're all going to be challenged to continue to develop, increase, plus your current experience, and create unique experiences, period.
Okay, right, we're now going to see if there are any questions. So I can't see because the lights are really bright, but there's a hand waving down here. So
yes.
Can you introduce who you are? Don't touch the microphone. You might.
Okay, no touch.
That's it. Hands in the air.
Thank you. I'm Philip from Canada. You mentioned the fear of failure. I want to know, how do you deal with a failure when it already happened? What's your action plan?
So summarize, how do we deal with failure if it's already happened? How do you respond to that? Okay. Would any of you like to answer that?
Try again. The reality is, if it's a good idea, you need to try again and try again and change it a little bit and try again.
I love that line, flip the assumption. So, just because it's failed, maybe you just look at it the other way. Pia?
I think in terms of minimizing the fear of failure is talking about the fact that we're all afraid of failing. So I think to minimize the stigma of it and making people understand that when you fail, you actually learn. And when you learn, you don't make the same failure twice. So I think it's also important that we have a procedure where we share failures. We don't celebrate and we don't reward them per se, but we share. So we always say, let's not make the same failure many times over. So we share failures and we talk about them openly. And I think that helps to put down the stigma. As I said before, when we're very passionate about the work we do, we don't like failing. But I think what we always say also at Linnanmaki is that if you do what you've done before, you get what you've gotten before. So there's no new innovation if you don't try some new things. And when you try new things, sometimes you fail. And as a leader, I think, as I said before, it's important that you show that you fail a lot as well, and it's okay. And nothing bad happens even when you admit that you've failed. So I think that may be something.
Ken, have you got a...
Sure. The way that we would deal with failure is view failure as simply an educational opportunity, not only for the person or team that might have been in that situation, but also to use that experience and that example to share amongst our broader workforce. So there's just this constant educational effort occurring. So,
I'll give you one very small personal story, and that is that when my two sons went traveling the world, all my friends, their mothers, put notes in their backpacks saying, don't do this, be careful of that, watch out for all the things that you think that boys are going to do when they travel the world. And I put a note in both of my sons' bags saying, if you've got a problem, it'll teach you something. enjoy.
Yeah.
So I think that's about, they did get into trouble and they did learn lessons. So there's a learning there as well. Any more questions? One over there. Yeah? Don't
Hello.
touch the microphone.
No touching, I promise. So my name is Emma. I'm a glamping manager at a wildlife park. And I'm just wondering, what advice do you have about creating that culture where the team wants to innovate? What is the most important thing us as leaders can do to make the team want to innovate on their own?
Really good question, other than one word. I don't think you can make them do it. So, really interesting question. How do we cultivate innovation? Pia, you talk about that a lot.
I talk about that a lot. If you want to hear more, come on Thursday. I have a presentation about it, but it's about culture. And I think when you talk about creating a culture where people want to be involved, it's all about the way you treat people and you make the opportunities to people to be involved. So you can have workshops. When we're redoing our strategy again because everything has changed around us. We invite everybody to join and voice their opinions, so you listen to them. And when people are listened to, and then when you start doing changes, I think it's very important that in all the planning and innovative processes, you have to have movement. So very quickly start doing small changes, start putting some innovations forward, and when people see that what they say matters and that things start to happen, that's when they really get creative and start innovating. So the movement is really important in all the planning processes, I think.
John?
Collaboration in our business works extremely well. When we're sitting around the table and we present a need to create a smaller ride or a different style ride, bringing these creative heads together and having a good time session, but then letting them leave and come back to the session a couple of days later, it's remarkable the ideas that they come up with. And with the passion behind their own ideas, that you've got to listen, because they're really sold that they've got the best idea in the world after you've done that. So collaboration with peers, collaboration with your team, collaboration with your customers is the best way to come up with new ideas.
I would, and I'll just add to that from my standpoint, to make that a part of your culture, I believe needs to start with your values. We have a value that is, we want to make a positive difference in the lives of those that cross our path, whether that's a coworker, a guest, or members of the community. And so if we have everybody purposely driven towards making a positive difference throughout their workday, things start to spin out of that and start to drive a culture. It may take some time to build if you're starting from zero, but that's a great way to be more aspirational about it.
There's some great learnings there, and just another hard sell for Pia's session on Thursday. You'll get even more there. One final question before I run around asking people what they've learnt from the last hour. And if you say nothing, I have failed, that's acceptable.
Hello, I'm a colleague of Emma Bernhard, Marketing Director in the same wildlife park in Sweden. I would like you to share one example of a failure leading to learning used for a success or win.
Very good question. Very good question. So now we're going to see how honest our panel is. So I will go first. We have a brand of television program in the UK. It's called Coronation Street. And you may know it, you may not know it, but we opened a visitor attraction on the set. People loved it. They wanted to come, the set. We then took that tour out elsewhere, and not as many people came. And we realized that the thing that people wanted was authenticity. So we learned from some failures that actually what we were doing originally, doing it on the place where that brand, that television program had been made, was actually the right way to do it. So let me see if everybody else is as honest as that. It cost us a lot of money as well. So, John, have you got any failures you're willing to share? You've got 2 minutes
I've
and
had my
31
share.
seconds.
I've had my share. I just don't know how many of them I've turned into a real positive experience.
Yeah.
You learn not to get bit by the same snake twice, that's for sure. But I really cannot come up with an example, to tell you the truth, and I
Okay,
apologize.
that's all right. Ken, have you got anything?
You know, kind of in the same boat. There's been so many things that just don't work, and it's just get rid of it. You know, just stop. And I think it's key to whatever business we're all in is to kind of know your business, know your numbers, and if you tried something, if it's not working, don't get emotional about it. Get rid of it, and just keep moving forward.
Okay, does that help? We have 1 minute and 45 seconds left. So rather than any more questions, I'm just going to point at somebody. And there are people now leaving, rushing off, just
running.
because they don't want to be asked.
Go.
There's a lady there on the middle table. Could I have a microphone there for that lady? I just want to ask the question. You come to a session like this to listen to, great minds speak. Yes, you're pointing at the right lady.
Okay, Juliana, this will have to be the last one.
Okay,
We have other sessions we need to.
What have you learned?
Oh, this is too complicated. I've learned that there is some CEO club book. What did I learn? That some of you didn't take some good lessons of their failures. That innovation is not especially the good approach, because sometimes you need roots. That's all about it, and I would like to thank you very much to have come on stage and
Good. Thank you very much indeed. Could I just thank our panel? Could I ask you to thank our panel, and also to give a very early welcome to Ken, who is going to be the next IAAPA chairman. So a thank you to our panel. Thank you. Go out and be innovative. Thank you.
Well done.